Hi, I am Tommy and today I'm showing you how to export your Framer components into your React code base. The first step is to create a component for each section of your website you want to export. This is because the React export plugin only works with components and not layers of your page. So to create a component to export, you have to go to the section of your page, right click and create component. Then give it a name. After you create the component, it will also create a different variant for each one of your viewports. And you will be able to use them in your React components as well. Then if you go back to export the components, you have to open the React export plugin. After you open the plugin, you will need to select which components you want to export. In this case, we have 17 components we want to export. And after you click export, you will be shown a command to run in your terminal to download the JavaScript files. You can also press this button to open an online editor with your example project and see the result quickly. After you click the bottom button, you will be redirected to Blitz, which is an online editor very similar to VS Code, which has a terminal on the bottom and a preview on the right. The bottom terminal now is installing dependencies, and it is also running the command the plugin showed you, and then run the development server. After the command finishes, it will also replace the app file with an example JSX showing you a rendered example from your project. Let's remove the first one. As you can see, this component is from the Framer directory, which contains your Framer project components. We are also importing this CSS file, which is necessary to show the base styles from Framer. We are also using the .responsive variant, which will show a different variant of your components for each one of the window screen sizes. Now let's say that we want to customize the component with data from your database or code base. You can do that with Framer variables. So let's go back to our Framer project and let's go to the hero component. Here we can create a variable, for example, for the primary button. For the link, let's create a variable called CTA link. This variable will be available inside your React component as a type-safe prop, which means you can use IntelliSense to discover the props available to your components. Let's also create a variable for the subheading. You have to click this plus button and let's call it subheading. It will also choose the current value as a default value, so you don't have to always pass the prop if you want the same result it is in Framer. Let's also show another kind of prop, which are in the interactions kind of actions. Here we can add a new event and give it a name of onClick. When you create an interaction event, this will be available in React as an event handler. So you can, for example, run a function when the user clicks something in your Framer component. Now, to make sure that the changes are available to the command you run in the terminal, you should also publish the project. Now we can go back to the Blitz project and rerun the Framer script which is simply the command that the plugin showed you in the plugin screen. As you can see, it runs the Unframer CLI, your project ID and the output directory. When you run the command, it will simply download the files and create the TypeScript declaration files, which are necessary to add the type-safe props and IntelliSense. It will also show you an example code that you can use to quickly get started. In our case, we already have some code running. We also need to start the development server. Now let's import the hero component. You can quickly find in TypeScript your accessible components by writing Framer components and finding the component you want to use. In this case, we want the hero section. Then use the responsive kind of component to use the different breakpoints. Now we have access to the props we added earlier. For example, the subheading. You can change it to something else. As you can see, when I make a change, it will also show up in the right side preview. We can also change the CTA link with another link, for example to google.com. Now when you click the button, you will be redirected to Google. We can also add the onClick event handler as a function, for example to show an alert on the screen with hello world. Now if you click the text with the interaction, it will show on the screen an alert with hello world. And that's it. Things that are important to remember is that you have to import the CSS file to make sure everything works correctly, to show up the default styles from Framer, and then you can import each one of your exported components and render them as you want. Also notice that the generated JavaScript files should not be edited manually. Instead, you should use Framer variables. As you can see, the code is not very readable because it's generated by the plugin. It will also generate TypeScript declaration files, which are necessary to add the types of the available props. It will also let you add a variant prop with all the available variants of your component. This is only you can use them without the responsive variant of your component by passing a variant prop and choosing the one from Framer, which can be desktop, phone or tablet. As you can see here below, we have the hero component with a phone variant. If instead you use the .responsive component, it will already take the right viewport, the right breakpoint for your components. You should only use the non-responsive component if you have, for example, a button with different variants, for example primary or secondary. If instead each variant is simply a different viewport breakpoint, you can use just the responsive component to use the right breakpoint for each one of your viewport, meaning that changing the size of the browser will use a different breakpoint of your components, as you can see. You can still use your own styles to style the components. For example, we can add a black background with tailwind, and we can also center the items, as you can see. One thing to remember is that to add a class name to your components, you have to use the CSS important property. Otherwise, your styles won't always apply, because the styles from Framer have higher specificity. For example, if we now show the width of the component, if we try to make it full width, it won't work, because Framer uses a higher specificity than a normal Tailwind class. So you have to add the exclamation mark to make the class have higher specificity. If we add the exclamation mark, your style will apply, as you can see. And that's it. If you have any questions or to read more documentation, you can go to the Unframer GitHub project, which contains the source code of the Unframer CLI and runtime. In the README you can read a lot more about the available options and how to set up the components in your own code base. You can also click this download button in the Blitz project to quickly download the files and get started in your own editor without using Blitz. And that's it.